Good morning, afternoon, evening, everybody. I am Gunnar Eos, and welcome to another episode of the Logical Gamers podcast. I'm here tonight with Mr. Blankakong and Mr. Zeta Kaiser, and we are going to talk about tropes in indie games. And are they doing too much of it? How do we feel about it? And things of that nature. So, if you've been a listener to our podcast, you are aware that most of us have pretty much kind of, some more than others, given up on the AAA gaming space, and we've been kind of going to bat for the indie space, right? For those who don't know, indie is independent games. They're developed by fledgling studios, sometimes developed by a small team or one person. And these games, in our opinion, tend to be better in some aspects to AAA games because we can see that they have more heart put into it. They're more willing to take risks and try creative game designs, or maybe put a different spin on an already established game design trope that we don't see a lot from the AAA space. But I think it's safe to argue that there's been a marked increase in indie developers as of late. The more the AAA games kind of disappoint us, and not just us, but the gaming community at large, we see more indie developers rising up to kind of fill that space or create games from franchises that the AAA guys aren't giving us anymore or haven't given us in a while. So, with that rise comes a certain pattern that, Zeta kind of noticed, and he brought it to our attention. And when I sat down and I thought about it and was like, you know what, that's a real thing. That's kind of happening. So, you know, I did the intro. I hope you like the sounds of my sultry voice. But since Zeta was the one who kind of brought this topic to us, I'll pass the floor to him, and he'll just explain what he's noticed, and then we'll just take it from there. So, on that note, I will now put you on the spot, sir.
Shit, I'm on blast. Alright. I mean, basically, I forgot the exact reason why I brought it up, but I've noticed that there tends to be a pattern. I forgot what the game was that I was looking at that really made it set in. Is that a lot of indie games now follow one of, I want to say, like three patterns. It is either they are a deck builder type game, they are role like type game, and or they're in the same age demographic as us, and they have this itch for a nostalgia type game, and no company is ever going to make it, so they make it themselves. So it's more stuff like, I guess what you would call platformer collectathon type games, and it's kind of that three trifecta of what they do. Or I guess like a sub fourth section would be first person Doom type games. So that style of first person shooter, because we don't really get those anymore either from the AAA space. But that one is less common. And like I said, I forgot what finally made that kick in, but I just realized that always seems to happen now. Like a lot of games that or also I forgot. I don't know how I forgot this was the big one, is the Metroidvania type games, where that is the other like very very big one. I can't believe I forgot that one, because it's the one major one. Yeah, but those type of games seem to just be all over the indie scene, as opposed to the AAA, where now everything, it used to be everything wanted to be a Ubisoft game, so it's just everything all over the map. There's markers every place. Everything has to be open world. Now things are more of a, let's follow the Dark Souls, tough boss fights, 101 encounters, very punishing and gameplay and stuff like that. But I feel for the indie scene, there's more creativity involved in what it is that gets built, but it's still a pattern that I am seeing that I feel is a bit of a trap that they're getting themselves stuck into.
Right. Okay. Yeah. That's a good word for it, because when you brought that out, I took a look at kind of sat back and did a retrospective of kind of the indie games that I play. I play a fair amount of them, some of them more popular than others. And I was like, yeah, you know what? I do have a lot of games that are roguelike games. And to be fair, I like that type of gameplay. I think it's a game that because of its nature creates a long-lasting game, and it is one of the ultimate or one of the few truly pick up and play games. Perfect example of that is I like playing Dead Cells, and of the recording of this video, the Castlevania. Funny you mentioned Castlevania, Metroidvania type games. The
It's all coming together.
the Castlevania biome for Dead Cells came out. So I took like a month or two hiatus from Dead Cells, not because I got tired of it, because newer games came out and I played it. So now I'm playing Dead Cells again. And Dead Cells is a real easy game for me to play because I could do a run. That run might last 5 minutes, might last 30 minutes, and then I can stop playing for the moment, go do something else. It's something that I can kind of split my attention between and kind of watch a podcast or watch a video, a podcast like Logical Gamers podcast. I just got a hashtag ad. I could do both of that, right? It's not like an RPG where there's a story being told and I have to pay attention. But anyway, tangent aside, there are a lot of games like that. We've got Hades. There's a sequel for that coming out. We have Blasphemous, which is a Metroidvania. We have Hollow Knight, which Silksong is coming out. I swear to God, any day now.
Trust.
So, and there's a bunch more. The Enter the Gungeon, Binding of Isaac is old school, so I'm not gonna that's been around since forever.
Yeah, I forgot my favorite. My not Crosscodes. I was about to. Oh God, I just called it my favorite. I'm a fake fan.
One
Fake fan. Oh God.
Step from Eden, I assume.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
exactly
yeah.
what it is.
Which
My
is
favorite, I swear.
it's a Battle Network game, right? And we're going to see Battle Network in the year 2023, thank
Yeah.
God, but are we going to see a new one? That's up to Capcom. I don't know. But yeah, I have noticed that there are a lot of Metroidvania like games. There are a lot of roguelike games.
Yeah, like Slay the Spire. Like I said, one step from Eden.
Right. I think Slay the Spire kind of was like the maybe not the key one, but one of the major ones that kind of sparked the whole deck building.
Yeah, well,
I don't want to call it fad because that's kind of it's trend, I should say, because it's funny you mentioned that. There's like a lot of, not a lot, but there are a fair number of deck based RPGs and roguelikes that are up and coming, and I think Slay the Spire definitely was like the Dark Souls of that genre.
Yeah.
So, just to end my point, wrap up my point, I think it's because, one, let's be honest, that kind of game is easy, relatively easy to create. Like a roguelike is easy because you design your worlds, you design your bosses, you design your drip feed of content, because every roguelike has content where if you make it a certain run, you can unlock something permanently, which that's how roguelikes work. You build power, and eventually the runs become inherently easier, right? That's a lot easier to do, and it's a lot easier to stretch out the content of your game, because some people are not the best at roguelikes. I suck at Binding of Isaac. That game, for some reason, I am just not great at it. So it takes me a hell of a lot longer to beat some of these bosses than some other people. But I'm pretty good at Dead Cells, so I finish runs faster than maybe someone who isn't good at that type of game. So I think it's on some aspect, at least with the roguelikes, it's kind of easy to do. It's an easy kind of foot in the pond.
Yeah.
And let me know if I'm comments, you guys, if I'm talking out my ass. I'm not a game developer. I have my only link to game development is I saw Kong in college develop a card game. That was it. That's my link to game development, which is tenuous at best. But
I mean, you're not wrong. It's like like the roguelike genre is like, all right, there is a core concept. Like, this is what we're gonna do. This is the main loop of what you're gonna do. And so you have like just key things that are always gonna get repeated that you don't really have to worry about making change for later. Like every game obviously has a core loop, but there are things that will get added, or there's more variety in other games than is for like say uh like an RPG, I guess I would say is the big example. Like would be like a good example because like for an RPG, it's like, all right, well now I have to add this new equipment, I have to have these different numbers, I have to do freaking depending on how detailed you are, I gotta freaking change how things look. I have to add different type of bosses or different encounters or stuff like that. Like the roguelike thing is just like, all right, no, this is what's going to happen pretty much every single time. The only thing that changes usually changes on the player side. So you're like, oh, I really like these items. Well, you're not always guaranteed to get these said items. So now you have to work around whatever else I give you, but you're still doing the same thing. You have to work around what you have and work within those limits. Obviously, each time it gets easier and better because you know it's repetition. You're learning how the boss responds or how the enemies respond or what to look out for as opposed to like I said, like an RPG or something else where like new variants will come in, but it'll become new variants because we have to keep building up on something as opposed to you having to build up your own knowledge from the roguelike.
Hmm. Hmm. Right. Okay. Yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm trying to process it all. It's yeah, because I know with roguelikes, it's easy to add new biomes like Dead Cells does. They'll add this is the Castlevania biome, and in the Castlevania biome, there's 20 stages. There's X number, or they added 20 new weapons. I think 10 stages and this amount of bosses. So there's like in that one Castlevania inspired or not inspired. It is 100% Castlevania. The Castlevania section, you even have like subsections within that section. So it's just like it's just another layer of content on top of like the 3 or 4 expansions that Dead Cells already has. So yeah, I can see that. It's kind of like a layer cake. You have your base layer, then you have an expansion layer that adds weapons, skins, passive abilities, and then you add another expansion, so it just builds your layer cake up, which for the consumer is just way more content to do, go through. So I imagine that is a lot easier than, yeah, like you said, an RPG where you put in one sword and it does one passive, it blows your balance out the water, and people are one-shotting your final boss with this new sword that you added. So
Yeah,
no, that
there's more variance in what I would guess we give it a I forgot what the word is. It's a form of progression. Forget if it's linear progression or something progression, but there's more variation there as opposed to the more or less static nature of roguelikes.
yeah, I could agree with that. Yeah.
But yeah, then like I said, there's the boomer games, as I like to call them, where we make things that are just similar to our childhood. So like you got stuff like Froggen, you have stuff like ukulele, or ukulele. How the fuck do you say it?
Ukulele, yeah, the
Yeah,
I mean,
banjo
that's how I
kazooie
always
clone.
said it.
yeah. You have stuff like that. You have stuff like A Hat in Time, where they're very clearly trying to be like the N64 or PlayStation era of platforming, where it just doesn't exist anymore. But those are clearly people who are around our age that miss that type of gaming, and that's why they make it because they know it's like we're just not going to get that anymore from. We barely get platformers as it is if it's not from freaking Sega and Nintendo. But we're definitely not going to get freaking collectathon platformers. So this is the when we do get a platformer from an indie, that's usually the style of platformer that they make. And like I said, we get Froggun, freaking Ukulele, and what was the other one I just said?
Hat in Time.
Hat in Time, yes.
So let me squeeze in here.
Yeah, come on in.
So just thanks, man.
The water's fine. You're good.
Perfect, wonderful. So just so I understand, when you guys say indie game tropes, it's more about like indie game saturation in the market of like certain
Yeah.
genres.
Eh.
Yes and no, because it's like it's not like it's not like they all are like exactly the same, but they're all working off the same like
idea.
yeah. So
Well,
like an example would go ahead.
No, go for it.
No, I was gonna
Provide
say like the
example.
example would be like as Gunner said would be like something like Dead. About to say Dead Space. That's completely wrong. Dead Cells and Hades. Like they're both similar in what they are, but obviously they're like they're very different. Well, I would say very very different, but like they're in the same type of game, but they are different.
Mm-hmm.
Like Hades is more story based. There's more of a what is it 2.5? No, it's not 2.5. What the hell's the
It's
look?
I would say 2.5 because they are 3D models, but they're in a semi. Well, they're not in a flat zone. It's like
Yeah,
Well,
well,
Dead Cells
first
is
off,
a side scroller, right?
yeah, side
Yeah.
scroller and
And
Hades is
a
top down.
top down. Yeah, so like
Yeah.
that's one huge difference. It's
Yeah.
perspective. Yeah.
yeah, but they are in both are in V rogue like genre of where it's just like oh
Sure.
you die you got to start over and everything like that.
Sure.
Or
Yeah.
for the deck builder thing, it would be like Slay the Spire and One Step from Eden. They're both deck builders, but one is for Mega Man style of deck builder, and Slay the Spire is it's RPG esque. But they both do the same thing. Like you're trying to get to an endpoint, you fight a couple of fights, and after like 4 or 5 fights, there's a boss fight.
So to answer like the question or like the overall topic, I think there isn't a black and white answer to this one because it kind of depends on how you're looking at it, and it depends on your exposure levels to like those genres of games. So for me, when it comes to indie games, I'm more into the Castlevania style games and the platformers. I have a lot of experience with playing those games, and I collect a lot of those games because those are the games that I enjoy playing, generally speaking. So like when it comes to roguelike, deck builder, RPG, JRPG, whatever other genres you guys are hinting at, I don't have too much experience with it, so I can't speak to those. I can speak more to the platformer, Metrovania, Castlevania style of indie game. So with that being said, is there too many, or is there too much, or is there just more? I think it's just there's just more than what we're used to. So I don't think it's saturated, and I know that's not your word, that's my word, but that's the feeling I'm getting. It's like there's maybe more than you would expect of this game to exist in the current marketplace. And while I agree with that statement, I don't think it's too much. Like I don't think it's reached to the point where it feels like Call of Duty or the sports titles or Assassin's Creed, where it's just like, oh boy, here we go, here's another one. It doesn't really feel that way because there's enough variation in those subcategories to where it's fine. It doesn't feel that different. So to just kind of support my point, I typed in Google indie platformer games general, and it gave me a lot of results. Right, it gave me like 50 results, but they're all pretty different. So like Super Meat Boy is up here. That was developed like 10 years ago, maybe more, like 15 years ago.
Yeah, I think it's way more.
Yeah, so Super Meat Boy's up here, and then Fall Guys is up here, and then Hollow Knight's up here, and then Shovel Knight's up here, and then Ori's up here, and then Wonder Boy's up here, and then there's like Little Nightmares, and then there's like Spelunky. Like these are all platform Cuphead. Like these are all platformers, sure, but they're pretty like they're really different.
Yeah.
You know, so for me, it's like yeah, there's a lot, but there's enough variety within the design and the art style and the quality of these games to where it doesn't feel like overwhelming. And also these games launch pretty cheap, so like it doesn't feel like an undertaking to like collect most of them. To me, at least, for me, it's like it's fine because these games are like $20-$30, high 40s maybe. So I don't know. There is a lot of them, but there isn't too many. Like I'm good with it. And the other point that I wanted to mention, you're right when you say like these are boomer games. Like these are guys our age or older who want to kind of revisit an old design that they grew up with. But in I could see why like that might be. There's less integrity is the wrong word, but there's less like validity to that to some people But to me, it's like, well, these are designs that have stood the test of time. The Metroid Castlevania style of gameplay exists, like that genre, that subgenre exists because it is a great fucking blueprint of game design, and it works. Which is why people, designers keep going back to it because it fucking works, man. Like when they develop cars, for example, like the person who perfected the design of the motor vehicle, right? Like there's nobody really trying to reinvent the wheel. I mean, there is like electric cars or whatever, but like the overall design of a car is the same and has been the same for a long time. So like that's what I feel like some of these genres kind of represent. Like this is like the blueprint is here. Like we know what this is. Yeah, we could change the color of the car. We can change certain like curvatures of the car. We can play around with like different engine parts and different tires, sizes or whatever. Sure, you could do all that, but the car is the same. Like the fundamentals are there, and they're not to be changed because now you're making something else, right? I hope that made sense. I feel like I didn't articulate that properly or as well as I could have, but I think my point is clear enough to where I think you guys will at least kind of understand what I'm trying to say. I don't know.
No, I get you.
Tell
I
me.
get you. I get you.
So
yeah, I was gonna say
I'll
I
let
get
you
you.
respond.
No, I was gonna say like I understand. My concern is really not that there isn't variety, because I do believe there's a lot of variety. Is that it's like I said earlier. I feel like they may be walking themselves into a trap. Like I was saying, like how for AAA it was once, I want to say Assassin's Creed. Like once Assassin's Creed came out, like everybody's like, all right, if we do an open world, it has to be like this. We
Oh yeah,
have to
you're
have
definitely right. Yeah.
these things that are markers on the map. You have to do this, you have to do that, you have to collect all these things, and that was just the standard for open world games until Dark Souls came out. And then, not that Dark Souls was open world, but they were just like, once that came out, I was like, all right, this is now the standard. People want fights like this, tight corridors, freaking punishing enemy design, and then we got stuff like the Surge. We got what was that other game? Crap.
But there was a lot of Souls.
Yeah,
Souls.
yeah. There were a lot of
Lords of the
Souls-like games that
Fallen.
came out. Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Like a lot of things, just like all right, this is what people want. This is what we're making, and we're not going to try and do too much different from it. The indies doesn't have that problem yet, but that's more of my concern. Is like eventually they will get there, because like I said, there are a lot of deck builder type games, and there are a lot of roguelike games, and I feel like they will eventually just like push themselves into a corner where it's just like, all right, this one freaking deck builder game just came out, and now there's another deck builder game a month later. Obviously, you don't have to buy it, but it's just like you keep seeing headlines for stuff coming out, and it's just like, damn, do they make anything else other than deck builders and roguelikes and Metroidvanias? Oh, that was kind of why I said like the boomer platformers are more of a, they're out there, but they're less of an issue because it's mostly people in our age range that remember and want those type of games. Like very specifically, like if I use Frogan as an example, like that looks like Mega Man Legends.
Yeah.
No Zoomer understands or knows what Mega Man Legends is, so that's like that was clearly marketed towards us specifically.
Yeah.
With that design and that look. So that has less of a saturation, I would say.
Man,
Or,
that's got me thinking, because I do definitely see your argument where if you're from the outside looking in, you see, oh my god, this is like the 20th roguelike game that's come out. And obviously there are going to be some that pop off better than others. That's why people mention Hollow Knight, Hades, God, let's see, now I'm having a
yeah, you have Blasphemous, you got freaking Dead Cells, we got
Dead Cells, right? Dead Cells, Binding of Isaac. Like those are kind of like the standouts. But there are, I see a bunch of little roguelike games that pop up every now and then. But for me, and somebody could say this is my bias showing, and I might, and I won't necessarily be able to argue that, is like I don't mind it because one, I think one of you guys mentioned it that the price point. It was Kong that mentioned it. The price point is fair. Like they're not asking me to invest $70 on something that may not pan out. Right? I mean 30, 40, 20 is still 30, 40, and 20, but to me that's a easier pill to swallow to
And
try
70.
out. Yeah, that's 70 to try out a roguelike that you're like, you know what? This is actually pretty good. I actually enjoy this. And they, every roguelike that I've played usually adds something in their formula to spice it up, to like kind of set them apart. I mean, because you have to, right? You can't just release, I mean, you could, but it wouldn't be advisable to release something that's literally plays exactly like the other popular um roguelike. I wouldn't want a Cells Alive that plays just like Dead Cells. Like,
Yeah.
no. So I think that like because the entry point is a lot lower, it's easier to take a risk, and I think that's why there's more of them. But I can see your argument where maybe 5-10 years from now, roguelikes die out. I personally don't think that's gonna happen, but it's possible. And then you see a lot of indie companies that built their fortune, so to speak, on roguelikes now go, oh shit, we have to pivot to a new game type, and maybe some can do it, and maybe some cannot.
Yeah. Or they have to like expand on what it is that they have. Like we can use Cult of the Lamb as an example, because Cult of the Lamb is freaking a roguelike, but it has like a city builder into it to kind of like make it stand out more than all the other games around it. And it helped and it worked, but I don't really like I still like it, but I don't see it being talked about as much as when it
No,
first got released.
because the problem with that, and I played Cult of the Land, and while it's a good game, I think the problem that game suffered was that it tried to be two things at the same time. It tried to be a roguelike and it tried to be a city builder, but it didn't do either of those especially well. Not especially well. It didn't lean into either. I think it should have been either a roguelike game or a city builder or like a village builder game.
Yeah.
And a lot of people that I saw kind of echoed that same thing. But you're right. You're absolutely right. Like Cult of the Lamb got really hype in the streaming community, the VTubing community. I saw like 20 different VTubers playing Cult of the Lamb at some point in time.
Yeah, because it was
And
fun because you had Twitch integration, so you could make the chat freaking
yeah,
sacrifices and stuff like that.
yeah. And the fucking shit on the floor and that it's poop jokes galore.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right about that. And yeah.
And then like I said, the last I don't want to say last, but like the other subgenre, which is one I don't really play, would be the older style shooters where it's just like you don't really aim, it's just kind of just whatever's in the crosshair. So like the only one I have off the top of my head is the one that just came out is the Neon White, because I forgot what the other game was called. It had a whole bunch of problems when it first came out. Well, not problems. It had controversy, as Twitter likes to call it, and I forgot what it's called. And I should have. I know I have it, but I just gotta load it. But I'll just use Neon White for now, where it's just like it's in. I believe it's in the same thing in the deck builder / category, but it's a shooter.
That game is weird. It's like a shooter runner because it's all about like speed running,
Yeah,
literally.
yeah. But you
It's
get different cards and power ups and stuff,
yeah,
and you get to go different routes. So it's mixing everything all at once. It's the roguelike, it's the deck builder, it's the shooter, it's everything coming all in at once.
yeah. That one's kind of like a hardcore mishmash.
Yeah, there you go.
Um,
Ion Fury, because I couldn't remember the name. That was the one, and that's like it's like classic Doom, where
hmm.
it's that type of shooter where we don't get that anymore. And there was another one that just came out, and I forgot what it's called. It's something to do with fashion, and I don't want to say it's Fashion Police, even though that's probably its name. You know what? I'm gonna look right now. Oh,
So,
Fashion Police Squad.
Fashion Police Squad. Okay.
Yeah, where it's that style of old school shooter where
So
it's
like Doom, essentially.
yeah,
Like
it's essentially Doom.
yeah. Okay.
Now
Yeah,
I said it was
there are a lot less
another
of those.
small. Yeah, there's a lot less of those, but those are like a smaller category, like the boomer platformers.
Hmm.
That like it's not really a lot of them, but like I feel like they're rising up.
Hmm.
To me,
So
that's yeah. That's just
I don't disagree with what you're saying. Like there is definitely an upwards trend to these games, like the population of these like indie games. Um, but I don't know if it's going to be a problem in the future. It might be, but I doubt it. I mean, once I think there's a clear plateau for those games because we've already seen it happen in the PS2 era, right? Like after the PlayStation 1 Dreamcast era, we really didn't see platformers like that anymore. That started to die off, right? And we
Yeah.
saw them in the PS2 Xbox GameCube era, right? In Jack and Daxter and Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper and all those games, they were coming out, but they were making less and less sales as time passed because different genres started to get more attention, right? That's when we started to get like the Medal of Honors and the Grand Theft Autos, and you know those games started to get more attention and just more of the overall market share. The Devil May Cry's, the Ninja Gaidens, those games started to become more popular, so we got more of that stuff. And then if we go to like the PlayStation 3, 360 era, that's the era of shooters, right? Shooters, looter shooters,
Everywhere.
third person shooters, fucking shooters everywhere, right? And so while that trend is still going strong, it's not. It's still different now. Like today, now it's the battle royale age, right? Everything's a battle royale. Everything's online. Everything's a battle pass. Everything's a online only game, right? Or whatever. You
Live
know,
service, baby.
these are the trends. So like, um, we're just seeing a resurgence of like the stuff that was popular in like the late '90s and maybe early 2000s make a comeback because there's been a drought in that area for so long. And so I think the market will dictate whether or not these games can exist if the demand is not there anymore. So like once the natural like um once these
Demand.
companies the natural demand starts to like decline because there's just too much out there, people will stop buying, right? They'll stop consuming, and then the companies, the developers behind these like products will stop. Like they will stop because they're like, well, wait a second, hold on. You know, we're investing into this. What is this market? What does the market look like for this kind of product? I don't know if that's a worthwhile investment. And for those who are willing to take the risk in investing into these, you know, said designs, you know, they're gonna feel it, right? They're either gonna do well or they're not gonna do well, right? It's that simple. And as more people fail, other people will take note and go, maybe let's not make deck builders anymore. I don't think there's a demand for that right now. So I'm not too concerned. I think the market will adjust itself as need be. Um, I think there's just a demand for like more simpler, less intense gaming experiences because that used to be the benchmark a long time ago. Um, and for a lot of people, especially people in our age group, you know, late 20s, early 30s, mid 30s, early 40s, whatever, in that like millennial bubble, or even older, they want to go back to that time because games today are not what they were, and so there's a demand now, right? That demand isn't going to last forever. That demand will pivot to something else. So in 20 years from now, let's say 15, 20 years, the generation is growing up with Fortnite and Apex Legends and all this other stuff. That genre of gaming is going to plateau. It's already plateauing, if you ask me, and it's only going to go in the decline, which may happen in the next few years. Which I think we're currently already seeing a decline, right? Like every year they have less and less users.
Oh yeah.
You know, and there's more and more battle royale games coming out, and we're starting to see some of them eat shit because they're not getting the user base that they need to sustain, you know, their very
Keep the
existence.
servers on, as you know, the Final
Right.
Fantasy one just got shut,
So
not even a year in.
in 15 years from now, when these 10-year-olds or 25-year-olds, there might be a resurgence of battle royale games, right? Like This is just the ebbs and flows of like products and businesses and desires of the consumer base. Consumers are always going to dictate the demand, and that demand's going to dictate what the companies produce. That's just the way it is, and that's the way it always has been.
I mean, you're not wrong. Like I said, my more concern is that this is on the indie side of things, so it's like it's a way bigger hit, I guess, on the individual level or the team level if something goes wrong, as opposed to like, oh, Square Enix shut down their battle royale game, or freaking Ubisoft shuts down their battle royale game.
Sure,
It's like,
but companies go down in flames all the time, whether they're AAA or indie. Like that just happens, unfortunately. And Fortnite, at one point, was an indie game. Long time ago, before it was battle royale, it was an indie game. It was kind of a little side project game. It wasn't a AAA game by no means. They just struck gold, and they didn't realize it until they realized it. So, I don't know. I don't want to. I feel like we're talking past each other, though.
Yeah.
no, you're not wrong.
But I'm trying to understand like what your fear is, or what your concern is, or
my main concern is I don't want freaking indie developers to kind of follow into the AAA pattern of, oh, this is what everybody wants, so let's just make this. As opposed to
inevitable.
I
think it's inevitable. I mean, I feel you, but and I feel like I bring this up in every like other podcast, but like I really enjoy Monster Hunter. It's been like my go-to franchise for a long time, and I've always wanted it to succeed, but ever since it's found the success that I felt like it's always deserved, I'm afraid of what that success will breed now, and we're kind of seeing shades of it in Monster Hunter Rise with downloadable content and skins, and it's like, well, what's next? Are we doing battle passes now? Like, Sunbreak coming out and not being like available on cart at all. That's another thing. I'm like, little things like that is like shades of what I don't want for the Monster Hunter franchise, but it's going to kind of happen, unfortunately, as different people take the helm of executive roles in Capcom or whatever, and they're gonna, I hope I'm wrong. I could be wrong, but history dictates that this is only eventually going to go one way. Eventually, whether it takes a year or 10 years, it's still headed that way, right? I don't know. Does that make sense? Like what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
No,
it makes sense.
I get you. Yeah, I mean, let me try to get my thoughts straight.
No, you're good. I understand.
It's just because I think the indie space is just like, it's a weird nebulous zone, but I think even though we do see a lot of, I'll just keep it to roguelike games. There are a decent amount of them. And I think the ones that always have something special about them or something that set them apart, they always rise, as the saying goes, they always rise to the top.
Dream always rises to the top. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, as the great man said.
That's Macho Man Randy Savage, for those who don't know.
If you don't know, I don't know what to help you.
That's not John Cena. Get out of here.
Oh, God.
But it's just like, they will set themselves apart. So, the ones who don't, because they are indies, they're not like Square Enix, even though those guys are taking a lot of hits, where they just have the budget to go, you know what? Okay, this one flopped. The next one, that's going to be the real one. A lot of indie studios, their games don't do well. They disappear. Right?
Yeah, that's my concern, is that things will disappear, and this is like these people who actually care, as opposed to, corporate overlords who are just like, whatever, tax write-off.
Yeah, so
I'd rather have people who want to build good games still building games over just company with infinite money.
I think that's going to happen. That's why I think the indie space is the perfect space for these type of games, because if an indie takes a risk and it pans out, well, now they're one of the big boys. Now they're the Dead Cells, they're the Hades, they're the Hollow Knight of that game genre. If it doesn't pan out, the community will call you out because you don't have any
No
goodwill.
pre-existing fans.
Yeah, you have no pre-existing fans, you have no goodwill, you have no prestige. They were like, bruh, your game is fucking trash. And either they will fade away or they'll pull back, reassess, and come back with like a banger of a game. So I get this, like I understand your worry, but I think because of the space these type of games are in, and the fact that a lot of these indie creators just realistically do not have the luxury of failure, you're gonna get more gems than shit. That's just how I feel. Because I've seen a lot of deck builder games that they don't last long, right? They go, I'll just play Slay the Spire, or I'll go play Demon Train, which is another roguelike deck builder game, or I'll play, oh god, it's like a spooky one, like kind
Yeah,
of a
that's the one. I
horror
keep
themed
forgetting his
one.
name, but I know that's sort of one I wanted to bring up as well.
Damn it! Well, now we're fake fans. Well, I mean, we're fake,
I don't own it, so that one. So
we're
this
fake.
time I could.
Yeah, we're fake podcasts.
We're professionals. I swear. We came prepared.
But hey, correct us. Let us know in the comments if you can pick it up. But that one is a deck builder game, true, but it set itself apart by being kind of a horror deck builder. So I get it, Zeta. I do understand, but I think because of the space it's in, the failures will be a blip on the radar, and the people trying to ride the coattails of the bigger ones, they're not going to last long. They're not going to last long.
Yeah, I think you're right, and I'll use a big boy company as an example. Let's look at Capcom, for example. Capcom has been a household name forever now, right? And especially for us growing up, Capcom has developed some of the best franchises, some of my favorite games, some of your favorite games. Like I know you guys are, well, I know Zeta is. I think you are too. A big Breath of Fire fans. That's a Capcom game, right? I know most of us are Resident Evil fans.
Doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, but let me get to my point. I'm just saying they make good shit, right? Or at least they made a lot of good shit in the 80s and 90s. But then when you start to look at what they were producing in the in the PS3 era, Generation 7 era, things started to get real rough for them. Even though they saw success with Street Fighter 4 and Marvel vs. Capcom, that success did not last long because they bit off more than they could chew, and they started to kind of produce less than desirable games like Street Fighter Cross Tekken. Even though I don't think the game was terrible, but it wasn't what the fans wanted at the time, and they were trying to monetize the hell out of it.
Yeah, that was the real problem with that, because they wanted that crossover. They was freaking dreaming of that crossover. That they bundled that so badly. They killed off freaking Tekken Cross Street Fighter. They killed off the reverse game that was supposed to come after that one.
Yeah, which I can't blame Namco for not. They're like, you know what? Let's not do that. Let's just add Akuma to Tekken 7 and call it a day.
Yeah.
But anyway, they saw a resurgence in, I want to say like 2016, 2017 with Resident Evil 7. They took a chance. They took a big chance, and it paid off for them. They were put in a corner, and they had to fucking produce. And they've been seeing success ever since. I think they've stumbled a few times, but like with Resident Evil 2 remake, with Monster Hunter World, with the Resident Evil franchise, they've seen a lot of success. Street Fighter 6 looks pretty fun, right? So Capcom is an example of what I think Gunner is getting at, where it's like you're either going to sink or you're going to swim, right? And it's up to you. And if you sink, then you sink. Then that just means somebody else is going to take your place. And if you rise to the occasion, or rise to the top, as the Macho Man would say, then then you'll be back where you're at, and you'll have that experience of being down here to reference, to kind of keep you humble and keep your head above water, so to speak. So I hope I'm I don't want to misrepresent your point, Gunner, but I think that's what I got from it.
No, you pretty much got it right. It's again, like I said, these indie games, you get one shot to impress, and if you don't bring it, again, you could say the community's harsher to indies because the things we said, right? They're not prestigious like Capcom and Square Enix and Sega. They'll say your game is trash, and that game won't sell, and there won't be a sequel, and that game won't be around anymore. Which kind of needs to happen to a lot of these AAA games, and one can make an argument it is happening. That's a podcast for another time.
not fast enough. But what Kong is saying for those Resident Evil 6 fans out there is that you're not welcomed.
I didn't say that.
You almost killed the game.
I didn't.
You almost killed the franchise.
It wasn't just 6. It was 6 and Operation Raccoon and a bunch of other.
We don't count those games.
They still exist, man. They're still out there.
We don't believe in those games.
I certainly don't.
Oh, the game was Inscription. I had to look for it.
Inscription. There you go. Yes, that is the spooky. I was saying Inception, but it's like no, that's wrong. That's very wrong.
That's a
I was saying the same
Leonardo
thing.
DiCaprio movie.
I was thinking the same thing, so I was like, I have to find out what it is.
Inscription, right? That's a spooky deck builder card game. Okay, boom. Instantly set yourself apart from games like Slay the Spire and Monster Train and games of that nature, because now you got the horror element to kind of, add to your story. And so it's all about setting yourself apart because you have to. The double A space, as I call it, the indie space, you have to set yourself apart. You have to.
I wanna.
So no,
I want indie games to thrive as well. Like, listen, man, I love my old games. Like, I've just started playing through some old Castlevania games and some old Mega Man games again. The ones that I missed. Started just playing through those, and I think those games are, for lack of a better term, they're beautiful, man. Like, they're great. You could see the passion in them just playing them and looking at, just admiring the concept art and all that stuff. Like, damn, look at all this work that they put into it. They managed to get this like awesome idea on paper and transplant it into like this digital form, and they fucking nailed it, man. And so like there's something really, really just, again, beautiful might be the wrong word, but that's the only word that comes to mind.
The right word. Because that's kind of what I want, or what I'm trying to get at, of what I feel. There's like, I don't want these people who are passionate about something
to suffer the consequence of a volatile market. I get it, but if it's gonna happen, it's gonna happen, and that's a really like shitty thing to say, but that's the reality of the situation.
I know. I am.
There has to be a fine line of balance between artist and businessman, right? Business and the art form. Both can't dominate the other, and unfortunately right now I know that the business side is dominating a lot of the industry, and not enough of the artists are allowed to kind of create, because that's what they do. Artists create. They have to create within this box, and that box is dictated by executives and business people, because it's like, well, according to the data, this is what sells, so this is what you're going to make, and you're not going to get like great ideas. Great ideas aren't going to flourish when you're in a confined space. It's just not going to happen. You need inspiration. You need a muse, and that's why I support indie games. I want them to see
a studio that closes after making one game.
Unfortunately. I mean, if we look at games like, and I hate to trash on this game because it's like beating a dead horse. It's like picking on a child. But like, look at Forspoken. That's a game.
You just found where I said it. That works.
Listen, man. Whatever, dude. We ain't sponsored by nobody. Like,
I know we're not. I was just saying. I was just like,
we're just dudes talking, And
that poor team that got killed for not.
That studio got closed, unfortunately, and it sucks for those who worked on it. But that game didn't have, at least from what I saw, it lacked a lot of soul. It feels like a lot of the people that probably worked on the game. A lot of people that worked in the game probably were just phoning it in. They were just clocking in for work, just doing the doing the minimum, and I think it shows in the gameplay. In my opinion, I know
Well,
there are some people who like the game and who even love the game, and that's fine. Like, art is subjective, but like from my perspective, that game lacked a lot of soul.
I was gonna say it's the same people who made 15, and I think we've said our piece about 15 on this podcast enough times to understand that I was just like, yeah, this all checks out.
Yeah, man. Trash game, man.
Hey,
That
So
you could stay mad, 15 fans. It's fucking that
yeah,
game was trash.
it got reworked for a reason.
yeah, it's true. I mean, the sales numbers kind of show that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I feel you on your concern, but like, you can only control so much. That's why I don't. This is not a thought that bothers me at all. It's just like, I can't save the world. You know what I mean? Like, I can't. I can only worry
No,
about what's like within my reach. So I'm just
yeah,
gonna worry about what's within my reach.
no. I just want to be like, I don't know, what is that freaking saying? Freaking canary in the coal mine and
Mm-hmm.
all that. Where I'm just like, consider what you're doing and be mindful. Is more of what I want,
Yeah.
so that they don't get stuck in the trap, and then it's just like, 'cause it's not like games aren't made in a day. Some games are made in years, and I don't want people getting stuck 3 years in development making something that was just doomed to fail from the start
Yeah, that's true.
because they decided to follow like a cookie cutter
Trends.
formula
Yeah.
or trends. Yeah,
Trends that could go out of date very fast.
yeah,
Right? Like,
yeah. By the time they're finally finished and get everything out, like not that that did happen. What's the RPG name that the guy made by himself? Fuck.
Oh, Chaos. Chains of Chaos? No. I'm gonna let y'all know right now.
Yeah.
Doing this live, folks.
Oh yeah, because
I
that's a what?
may or may not be on my Switch right now.
big fan.
Where is it? I know I was playing it not too long ago. Shit.
Yeah, because well, while you're looking for, because that took him what, I believe 7 years to make.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that took him 7 years, and obviously he did that all by himself. Like, and it is, even though we can't find the name right now, I swear we're fans. It's just, that's kind of what I don't want.
Chained Echoes. Chained
Yeah,
Echoes.
Oh,
I don't want.
Okay.
I don't want 7 years of like, all right, I'm going to develop and do this thing, and then it comes out and just like, homie, nobody wants turn-taking RPGs anymore. What are you doing? Where have you been for like the last freaking half a decade?
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying, but like,
Obviously, I'm only using him as an example because this
yeah,
RPG is
I
different.
get it.
But
I get
like,
it. But for you, it's like you have skin in the game, air quotes. The skin in the game for you is you have a passion for that style of game. We talked, not on podcast at least. I don't remember. Like, just in our chat, like, you and Gunnar have like this real strong bond / attachment to like RPGs of yesteryear, and you want to preserve that because it's important to you and to your development as a gamer, as a person, maybe. And there's something beautiful about those games to you, and I get it, man, because I feel that way about certain games of my past, so I understand. But like, if somebody takes a chance at a project, and if it's a passion project, whether or not it succeeds is kind of, I don't want to say irrelevant, but is secondary to the journey for that creator. So I wouldn't worry too much. Like, if there's a small team of developers who decide they want to work on an RPG because there's an RPG craze at the moment, and they release it too late and they miss the train, they were doing it for the wrong reasons in the first place, right? So if your concern is this person or this team or this company losing out on a trend for making something that you might be passionate about, but they were doing it because it's a trend, then I would question the validity of them doing it in the first place. Because me, as somebody, and Zeta, we went to college together, and we both took game design, I wasn't in it necessarily for the money. I was in it because I wanted to do it, you know? And
Yeah.
like whether or not I developed something and it hit big or whatever, yeah, that'd be cool. But like for me, it's like it's more about it existing and other people being able to enjoy it. That's kind of it. Like I could tell you from a game design student's perspective, one of the most satisfying, and I'm pretty sure anybody who develops games will back me up on this. The most satisfying feeling as a creator is watching somebody else engage with your creation. Watching other people play my like bullshit levels or whatever that I made in whatever program we used back then was so stimulating for me as a creator, and seeing if they would get certain things or seeing how long it took them to figure certain things out or seeing them get frustrated was like hilarious to me, right?
I don't know. I saw your time splitter freaking maps.
Oh, I love that. It's a great feeling watching other people like play through this creation something that you've created.
And pure suffering on Wolf's part.
He'd be alright, man. But like, and what people don't see, and I get it. I think this is kind of where you're getting at too. Consumers don't see the endless hours that go into developing something like a video game, man. It's a lot of fucking time and a lot of effort, man. A lot, like an immense amount of effort. Most people couldn't do it. So I get it, but again, it goes back to what I said before. Your intentions have to be pure-hearted. Otherwise, I don't have a lot of sympathy for those who fail. You know, because it's like, well, if you were doing it for what I feel are the wrong reasons, financial gain only, then it's like, well, maybe it wasn't meant for you to
I don't care about
succeed.
the asset flippers / I'm just
I
following for trends, but
I said a lot there, so I'm sorry. I kind of like
no.
my message there.
No, it's still on point for what you're saying. It's still right. It's just, you know, I do not care about the asset flippers or the people who are just like, I just want to make whatever's popular and try and cash and go.
Those guys, man, like they're not in it for the good reasons.
So
it's
like hope
collecting Pokemon cards, for example. Like I collect cards, and I don't collect Pokemon cards anymore. I kind of stopped at Unbroken Bonds. It was like 2018. I collect because I collect. Like I just enjoy having like I don't know, something about collecting that I'm obsessed with. It's really a bad habit. But anyway, there are some people who collect for, you know, to flip. And while that's fine, you can do that. We live in a society that allows that and that encourages that. And I'm not against you, but like I have less in common / less respect for those who do it for financial gain versus those who do it for the passion of doing it. And that's kind of, if I had to like encapsulate my entire perspective into one, you know, sentence or 2 sentences, that would be it.
You saying you don't feel bad for the people who tried to flip PlayStation 5s and are now stuck with them?
No,
they couldn't
not
sell
at
them
all.
for $2,000.
Nope. Good for you. That's what
Monster.
I say. Monster Hunter, yeah. So.
No, but I think the indie space is still a space where capitalism and just delivering a good product still is a thing, unlike AAA space. So it's just like, if the people say your game is great, here's $20 for your game, that's a great price for this great game, that guy's going to succeed. And some won't, and hopefully they reassess and come back and, you know, fix the problems they had. Because I would love to see this, I'm going to use the word in the right context, this diversity of games, right? I like some diverse games because that means it's just like, hey, you know what? I don't like yours that much, but I like yours more. I like this one a little bit. I don't like this one so much. It's like, as a customer, it's just like, okay, these are all reasonably priced. Who do I want to support? So the indie space is what gaming used to be before corpos got involved and people got way too big for their boots. And I think it might sound like I'm leaving it up to fate, but I think it will sort itself out, and I don't. There will definitely be trends, but the ones that are worth a damn are going to stay afloat, and the ones that aren't, they're going to sink real quick.
I agree with that.
Yep.
I think so.
Yeah.
So, with that all being said, this was I'll be honest with you. I went into this conversation not really knowing where it was gonna go. I was like, I guess we'll just figure it out as we go. And it turns out we figured it out. So, good job, guys. For those listening, hope you enjoyed the conversation. Trained? I don't know. Professionals? Even less so. But for those listening, if you made it this far, thank you very much. I appreciate your viewership / listeningship. Leave a like on the video if you enjoyed it, dislike if you didn't. Comment down below. What do you think the future of indie games looks like? Is it oversaturation? What do you think the present day looks like for indie games? Is it just too much? Is it just right? Like, do you even give a shit? Like, let us know what you think. Or not, totally your call. Subscribe for more content. We do a podcast every week. Every Wednesday at 12 p.m. is when we publish. Eastern, that is. We also have sorry, I'm trying to do the YouTube thing. I'm drawing a blank. So we have a Discord, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and I said Facebook already, right? Damn, I'm fucking up right now. All the links in the description are down below. Look at that stuff, all the YouTube stuff, the social media things. Check out Mr. Esoteric. He streams on Twitch every week, 2 times a week. So give him a follow. I also have a Twitch that I haven't logged into in like a year, so you could follow me if you want to, but I don't know when I'm going to stream again. Someday, we'll see.
Any day now.
Any day, any old day now. So yeah, check us out there if you want to, and we'll catch you in the next one. Later.
Goodbye.